All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is August 14th. We got a small-ish MLB slate to jump into today on this fine Monday. Let's start the week off right. We're going to go through each and every game like we always do. I'm going to talk about the game. I'll give you my lean or leans on the games, but all my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If you do want to fade me, those plays will be in the pinned comments. So we follow up a 4-0 night a couple nights ago, right? With a 0-2 night last night. So you don't like to see that, but nonetheless, on the road trip, so we were on vacation this weekend. On the road trip, we ended up 4-2, which we'll take that. We're still a road game player, but we're back home. Breath of fresh air and ready to crush it. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. Hit that like button as well. We are still grinding. We're up early today, so we don't even have some full lines, but nonetheless, we're gonna go through each game, dissect it, break it down, and then we'll talk about it. And I'll give you my lean or leans on the game. So again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to go check out the Fade Me store, guys. I have the Fade Me Dodge tee on today. FadeMe.store. If you do want to support me and support what I'm doing here, it is up at the, I don't even think the sun's out yet, and we're doing this video. So if you do want to support and show your support, that is a great way to do so, and you get some quality merch as well. Go check out the Fade Me store, guys. Again, that is FadeMe.store. I'll put a link to that in the pinned comment as well, but it's the brand we're building here, and I really believe in it. So every time I see a notification that an order came through, it's like my day is made. So go check it out, guys. Go browse around, FadeMe.store. Game number one in today's video here is going to be Miami taking on Houston here. So Miami coming out of a pretty good series against the Yankees. They come back and win yesterday. They win 8-7. They were getting crushed for the most part of that game, but nonetheless, they come back and win. So they took 2 of 3 against the Yankees. Houston coming off of a loss, but still took 2 of 3 against the Angels. And this one smells a little bit like a trap, because this Houston team you'd think would be way more favored, I guess, against this Miami team. But they're only minus 135 here, which again, it's a little interesting to me that Miami is kind of right there. They're still underdogs here at plus 128 on at home here, but Houston I would have thought would be a little bit more juiced, and they're not. So maybe it's a trap, but it could be the fact that Miami is playing really well. It could be that Framber Valdez has been a little bit off as of right now. It could be that Miami hits lefties on the season very well, but not so much as of late. So I'm going to attempt and test the trap here. I'm going to lean towards Houston on the money line. Again, I think there's a lot of factors as to why this is closer in terms of odds than I would have assumed, but I'm still rolling with it because this Houston team going up against the lefty Braxton Garrett on the mound for Miami today. Though he's been good, Houston has been crushing lefties as of late. Last 10 games here with a 316 average, averaging 10.1 runs per 9. You look at it from the last 5 perspective, gets even better. 348 average and a 10.9 runs per 9. So obviously they did have a couple big games as of late, but they are scoring a bunch of runs and playing good baseball, even though they did take the L last game here. And Miami, and like I said, they were hitting lefties well in the season, right around 300, 296, which is really, really good. But if you look at it from a last 5 perspective, it does drop down to 270. Last 10, it drops down to 223. So not as great as they have paced this season. So give me Houston on the money line. Again, I threw out the factors as to why I think that this could look like a trap and why the odds are what they are, but I'm still going to trust the better team here, which you're also getting the better pitcher. He just hasn't been pitching as good as you'd like to see from him. In terms of the total 7.5, it seems just a little bit too low for me, especially when you're looking at a Houston team that has been scoring a bunch of runs. Now, they're coming off a game in which they scored 1 run. I have a feeling they're going to have to come, there's runs in a log jam there. So I think they come out and score a bunch of runs today. And Miami looks like they've just started to turn up the knob just a little bit. Here, they scored 4 runs, which you'd give them credit for, right? Their offense was cold to begin with. I would say the beginning of the month or so. They scored 4 runs, 3 runs, and 8 runs, which doesn't sound like all that much, but runs per game in that series is a little bit higher than the norm as to what we've seen. So give me the over in this game. I do expect Houston to carry the weight, though. All right, the Mets taking on the Pirates here. Mets coming off of a 4-game series against Atlanta in which they win the last game, so they lose that series 3-1. Pittsburgh coming off of losing 2 of 3 against Cincinnati. We do have some opening odds. We don't know what they are currently, but we still have them on there. Mets slightly favored right now, but we don't know who's pitching for Pittsburgh, so those odds are definitely subject to change, and we don't have a total. So we'll kind of hypothesize about this game, I guess. I do think Carlos Carrasco is going to get the start for the Mets. He's listed right now, not confirmed, but he he hasn't been all that great, and I don't necessarily think, that he's someone to trust. But he did look okay against Pittsburgh earlier this season. Only 4 2/3 pitched, but 2 earned runs, a strikeout, only one home run allowed to. So it was all right. But that game was a 2-1 game, which that's where I want to see where the total comes out to, because I think that could be a play looking at the under in this game, because neither one of these offenses you'd consider a powerhouse right now. So apologies that we have to kind of blow through it, but we don't really have much of the information that we need as of right now. I really would like to know who is pitching for Pittsburgh, because if it's anyone of service, but those guys are few and far between on that staff as of right now too. But if it's anyone that we can trust, I'd rather them over Carlos Carrasco, but I also like the under because I don't think either one of these offenses is cooking with gas right now, but it depends on what that line comes out to be. So in Pittsburgh here, going up against Cincinnati, they had a 9 total and then a 10 total and then a 9 total. For the Mets, they had a 10.5, a 9.5, 8.5, and a 10 against the Braves. So I can't even use their recent game totals because they've all been all over the place. So we'll just see what that total comes out to. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we ultimately end up rolling with anything. And speaking of comments, use hashtag ride of the day and give me an absolute banger of a pick. I'm going to jump on board with one person's pick, and you guys got a shout out in the next video, win or loss. But you got to use the hashtag ride of the day. Hashtag ride of the day. I see so many people drop plays in the comments, and I'm like, hey, if you hit or I like that pick, I could have jumped on board with it, but if you just use the hashtag, so use that hashtag, guys. And we're back home now after being away for the weekend, so very, very excited to be able to jump back into the ride of the day. We haven't done it in a couple of days, and speaking of also being back home after being away, this is, I think, Friday's video may be the last video. No, Thursday's video will probably be the last video for about a week from here, as we're traveling all the way across the country. So we'll be getting some, different videos out as well. But the grind has not stopped, but I did want to kind of update you guys on those two things. The ride of the day is back, and at the end of this week, we're going on vacation again, which, yeah, lucky me, multiple vacations, same 10-day period. I'll take it. But let's keep going here, guys. Next game up. Atlanta taking on New York here. The Braves coming off, we already talked about it, that 3-1 win of a series against the Mets there. The Yankees coming off losing 2 of 3 against Miami. They blew it late yesterday. They scored 7 runs. I think they were even up 7 to... You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe up 7-2, and they lose 8-7. On the mound for the Yankees today is going to be Clark Schmidt, who he's been pitching pretty well. 2.2 ERA in his last 5. He's got a 5-0, or the team has a 5-0 record when he does get the start. Going up against Max Fried, who has been pitching well as well. Not exactly like what you'd be saying is a stud, but 1.8 ERA in his last couple starts. But where it has been, it's been hit or miss. So he's only let up 1 or more runs in 2 of his last 3 starts. But when he does let up runs, it rains, it pours. So I do like Atlanta in this spot just because they are clearly the better team. They have more of momentum here. But for minus 225, a little bit too much juice to be considering for me. So what I'm actually going to look at in this game is going to be the over 9 runs. So the Yankees starting to score some decent runs. 2 of their last 3 games here, they've had 7 or more runs, so give them credit there. They had 7 or more, I think, in 4 of their last 7 games as well, so they are starting to score a decent amount of runs, and they're going up against Max Fried, who, like I said, hit or miss. He's either going to pitch well or not pitch all that well, and hopefully today's a game in which he lets up a decent amount of runs, because he's going up against a Yankees offense that has been crushing lefties as of late. 12.5 runs per 9, 425 average here, averaging a home run per game. In the last 5, it looks just as good as well. I'm not going to say on the season it looks that great, so this is more recent, recent stuff, so take that context. But then you just have the Braves offense too, are going to score a bunch of runs, and I don't necessarily trust Clark Schmidt all that much, though he's been pitching well. I do think that this Braves offense is obviously another animal, so looking at a total of 9 runs, I can see this one getting up into the double digits today. That's probably my main lean on the game. If you want to throw Atlanta into some sort of a parlay or something like that, I do like them as well. But it's just way too much juice to be paying for me. And if you're on the Yankees, then I think you're just looking for the long shot. So I get what your reasoning is and your value. You want the potential payout, but I just don't necessarily think it's a smart bet. I don't think that that's analytically backed, anything like that. So, I like the Braves on the money line, but it's going to be way too much juice to consider. And then my main lean in this game is going to be on the total over 9. All right, guys, if you have not checked out Outlier yet, you are seriously missing out. I do have a link in the description as well as the pinned comment for a 7-day free trial. We're on the player prop screen right now. You can see how trends are going for players. Last 5, last 10, last 20, blah, blah, blah. And if these are way too much juice for you, you can go ahead and put in some odds that you actually like. Let's say minus 150 and under, and you can start to see, okay, Clark Schmidt, the line for hits allowed, 5.5. He's hit this under here in 100% of his last 5 games, so 5 straight, 9 of his last 10. If we wanted to go in, dissect it, we can actually look at this and go through and say, okay, look at that. He's been crushing it on the season. He's only had a couple times where he's gone over this mark, 70% to the under. You can look at this Atlanta offense against right-handed pitchers. Not many guys that really bat righties better than they do standard here, and then only a couple guys that has some history. You can look at where the Atlanta batting is in terms of righties when they rank and all that. You can look at his pitch arsenal. You can look at everything, guys. It is very, very cool. Literally down to the opposition player, the opposing player, how they bat against his pitches. Outlier is an amazing tool. They also have the game breakdowns as well. Green means good, red means bad. If you can understand that, you can definitely benefit from Outlier. It's my favorite sports betting research tool on the market, bar none. Make sure to go check it out, guys. That link is in the pinned comment for a 7-day free trial. Just go check it out for 7 days. You're crazy if you don't. Like, what I just showed you is a snippet of what you could actually be using within that tool, and it's great on the phone. Same exact thing, very easy to use. And what's great, I didn't even show it, you can literally click add to picks, and you can go with one tap. It opens up that pick, puts it in your bet slip on your preferred sportsbook, and then you can place it. You don't even have to go digging on your sportsbook to find it. If you find a play on Outlier, you can one tap of the button go over to your DraftKings, your FanDuels, etc., and place that bet without having to go and find that pick in all the settings and whatnot, and the folders within DraftKings or FanDuel. So check out Outlier, guys. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. This tool is absolutely awesome. Use that link in the pinned comment for a 7-day free trial. All right, we got St. Louis taking on Oakland, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not thrilled about this series one bit. Miles Mikolas on the mound for the Cardinals here. He's been pitching okay, has one bad start in his last 5. Other than that, his last 3 actually looking pretty good, other than the one tough one there against the Cubs when gets tossed. But nonetheless, Oakland's starting JP Sears, who really isn't all that great. So give me the Cardinals here, not on the money line, but maybe the run line for even odds. I think that there's some value there. In terms of what we're looking at in a total, though, that is probably where my mind goes to immediately. I do think that both these teams have actually expended a lot of runs as of late, and they're due for some regression. So St. Louis in that Tampa Bay series, as well as that Kansas City series, had like a floor of 5-6 runs, which is absolutely crazy. And then Oakland in their series here against Washington, they even scored 7 runs in the last game. They're going to come back down to what they were doing in games 1 and 2, which was like 2 to 3 runs, right? So I don't necessarily think that this is a high scoring game today. The only thing that could throw that out the window is that both pitchers could be terrible. And it's like, yeah, Miles Mikolas, if he's not on, or JP Sears, if he's not on, I could take Yabo. You know what I mean? And I'm here in front of a camera and hasn't swung a baseball bat in God knows how long. So I do think that there's, potential for this to get ruined by the pitchers, but I don't think these offenses are totally there yet. So give me the under 8.5. It's probably my main lean in this game. But again, I told you guys right off the rip, I don't really love this series. So we'll see, what becomes final plays within this one. All right, Texas taking on Los Angeles here. Texas has won 8 of their last 10 games here, but don't be fooled. They have lost 2 of their last 4. That being said, I do think that, those are just kind of throwaway games. It doesn't shock me that, they win both games within the 2 series that they end up, losing 1 game within. They win both games and then lose game 3. So maybe Texas isn't a game 3 type team right now. Going up against the Angels, who are definitely in the dumps. I'll give them credit for beating Houston yesterday, but other than that, 7 of their last 10 games, they've taken a big old L here. The only issue here is that Texas is minus 175. I do like that spot, but the juice is a little bit high. So if you want to go risky and you do like Texas side of things, they do have Max Scherzer on the mound, who has looked pretty good with Texas. That first start, we talked about it, guys. He had a bad first inning, and I was like, oh boy. And then they rallied around him, came back, and they ended up winning that game 5-3. He only let up those 3 runs like right away. So shout out to him. He follows it up with a game. Yes, it was against Oakland, but he follows it up with a 3-hit, 7 innings pitch game, only allowing 1 run with 6 strikeouts, and one of those hits was a home run. So that's the run. You know what I mean? He didn't even get batted around. Average, I think it was like near 12 pitches per inning, which is amazing. So give me Scherzer and the Rangers. We might consider it on the run line here for plus 120. I could see that value. This Angels team has only covered as underdogs, right? They've only covered that line in 1 of their last 3 games here when they are underdog run line. So give me them on give me Texas on the run line here. In terms of the total, 9 runs. This Texas team has the potential to be a huge offense, right? But we haven't really been seeing them score a lot of runs. In fact, their games in the last 10 here have gone 2-8 to the over. So 8 unders there. The Angels 5-4-1 to the over. So I think I actually look at this and say, okay, well, maybe Texas scores a lot of runs, but I'm going to back Scherzer. Patrick Sandoval is going up for the Angels here. So even if Texas scores a lot of runs, hopefully he can keep doing what he's doing, which is 0 to 2 earned runs through 5 innings or so. So maybe we see a good chance for an under here. But if anything, if I like Texas -1.5, it's going to be hard for me to pull the trigger on the under because I want there to be no ceiling for them, right? So it's one or the other here. It's either going to be Texas on the run line or I consider the under, but I don't think I go with both here just based on how we predict ultimately in terms of final plays, how this game is going to go. All right, guys, if you're still watching at the 15-minute mark, make sure to drop your favorite athlete that wore 15 in the comments, guys. I'll think about mine. That's a good number. I mean, I think you got to look at Vince Carter, right? Like, that's the number that jumps right out at me. But who's got a really good one? It doesn't have to be the best of all time. I see a lot of comments being like, how could you guys be saying this name? It's like, what name jumps to your head? Who do you associate with 15? It doesn't have to be the best one ever, but I think, in terms of what I like, I got to go Vince Carter. When I think 15, I think Vinsanity. So let me know, now that you've made it to the 15-minute mark, who is your favorite athlete or name that jumps to mind when it comes to that number 15. But we got Kansas City taking on the Mariners here. And this Mariners team, they've dropped 2 straight games. So I get why you might be looking at this saying, okay, I see why the odds are what they are, but I don't understand it, okay? Kansas City only +130 on the money line. Mariners -142 on the money line right now. And I was like, okay, what are they starting some schmuck? It's Logan Gilbert, who's been pitching fairly well, 2.4 ERA over his last 5. The team is 5-0 when he does get the rock. And they're going up against Brady Singer, who, you know what, I'll give credit where it's due. 2.2 ERA over his last 5 here. The Kansas City Royals, which is surprising, are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. But this Mariners team should be head and shoulders above what we're looking at from Kansas City. So give me the Mariners on the money line. Maybe it's a trap again. Like, again, it's kind of confusing to me, but nonetheless, I'm rolling with it. I'll take it. I'll take it with the punches. So Seattle on the money line for -142. Then we have a total of 8.5. Kansas City had been scoring a lot of runs. They've had a lot of games go over here. Seattle did have a pretty low-scoring game last game, and then the game before definitely scoring 0 runs. So I do think Seattle's going to come out and probably try and get some bats and balls to make sure that they can secure an early lead and everything like that. So give me the over 8.5. I don't know if that makes it into the final plays, because I'm definitely way more confident in Seattle on the money line, especially after 2 losses. Those are their first 2 losses in the last 10 games. So, they got to come up with some power, and it's not like they're facing a bad team. The Orioles, who are also a good team right now, you know what I mean? So, I'm not sure why this is -142, but we'll take what the betting gods give us. Give me the Seattle on the money line. All right, Colorado taking on Arizona here. Arizona actually coming off of 2 straight wins. They took 2 of 3 against San Diego. They were underdogs in yesterday's outing. They win 5-4. We were on the wrong side of that, and they were +128 underdogs here. Colorado coming off of getting swept by the Dodgers, and that was a 4-game series, so that has got to sting. They are back in Colorado here, which we don't have a total. I'm assuming it's going to be right around that 12.5, which you guys know what I like. I do lean towards Colorado on the unders here. They've been an unders team all season long, and even more of an unders team at home, because I don't care about altitude or anything like that. You got to be able to hit the balls, and Colorado is not that great of a team. And Arizona, I think that they looked good against San Diego, but San Diego lost those games just as much as Arizona won them. So I don't want to give too much credit to them here. Their offense has really not been all that great either. I talked about it in yesterday's video. In fact, their offense has kind of been like abysmal. So we don't necessarily know who's on the mound for either team as of right now, but regardless, I don't think that this is an Arizona team that, their offense has been cooking or anything with gas as of late. In their last 10, they're averaging just 2.6 runs per 9, 223 average here. And, that's not good enough when I'm looking at any sort of a high total. So the only thing that I could look at in this game is predicting that the total is going to be high, because they're in Colorado, so it should be, and looking at the under ever so slightly here. All right, San Diego taking on Baltimore. Yu Darvish on the hump for San Diego. Last 5 starts here, he's got a 1.8 ERA, and he's been looking even better when you look at his last 3. He's got a 0.95 ERA in his last start here, in his last 3 starts, and a 0.95 whip, going up against Grayson Rodriguez, who, yes, he's been better. If you look at his season numbers, obviously when he comes back, he has been better. In his last 5, he's got a 2.2 ERA, 2.5 in his last 3, and in his last 3, he's got a 0.94 whip. So you have 2 decent pitchers on the mound. I do start to look at the under right away, but that's not where my mind goes. I look at the Padres on the money line here. Yu Darvish has been dealing as of late. I'm trusting him. He is more talented than Grayson Rodriguez. We had a comment in last time Grayson Rodriguez pitched, and I was like, you can fade Grayson Rodriguez, and I still stand by that. I don't care if since coming back up, he's looked good and all that. He isn't that great of a pitcher. Yu Darvish has more talent. You have a Padres offense that is just batting righties better than Baltimore's batting righties, especially in the last 5. So what have you done for me lately? The Baltimore Baltimore Orioles here batting 196 against righty. So yeah, that is pretty bad. And you can even look at it from an overall and a last 10 perspective. These two teams are running pretty parallel. So I'll take the slight edge with the recency bias there towards Baltimore not batting well. But you know, this Baltimore team, I talk about it all the time. I do like this team. They do have a really good offense, and they can kind of grind you out. So if that's going to happen, fine, let it be. But nonetheless, I do still think that San Diego here comes in a little upset about how they're playing as of late, and maybe snags game one of this series. Baltimore for the rest of the series, I wouldn't be surprised if they start to look a little bit better, because they are the better team and they're playing better baseball right now. They're better both record-wise, both, you know, pitching, bullpen, and offensively overall, but their offense has struggled just a little bit. So give me game one San Diego, and we'll take this series from there, because I do think that Baltimore edges out this series, but just not game one. Give me you, Darvish. All right, San Francisco taking on Tampa Bay, another good spot. Tampa Bay still kind of in the gutter, you know what I mean? They just can't get out of their own way here, but I do like them in this spot today, going up against Tampa Bay here. So give me Tampa Bay on the money line. They are on the road. This is their first of, I forget how many road games, but this is a road trip for them. San Francisco, you know, second game here back from, or second series back from being home. But nonetheless, I do think Tampa Bay with Tyler Glass now on the mound is a good look. He's been pitching really well in his last 5 starts here, averaging 6 1/3 pitch, 1.2 ERA, and it looks even better when you look at it from a last 3. He's only allowed 1 run, and 2 runs in his last 5 starts here, going up against Ryan Walker, who's going to be opening for the San Francisco Giants here. But give me the Padres, give me the Tampa Bay Rays in this spot. I want them to still just work towards being that team that they were. They were like riding high, and now they're just kind of like dinking, dunking, winning games, not winning games. It's kind of crazy. Like literally, they've won 5 of their last 10 games. That's the type of team they are right now. But I do think that they pull this one out. They are a better team than San Francisco. So give me them on the money line. In terms of a total 7.5. It seems kind of low, but if you look at these two teams and their offensive output as of late, you kind of get why. Now, Tampa Bay has those games where, boom, they spark and go off, right? But more often than not, they're actually, scoring, 4-ish runs. In San Francisco, they've only scored over 5 runs a couple times in their last 10. So not very offensive of a powerhouse as of right now. But yeah, give me the over ever so slightly, even though, give me the under ever so slightly, I guess, even though it is such a low line. But I don't think that becomes a final play. If anything's final play in this game, I'm going to be looking at Tampa Bay on that money line. Guys, that is all I have for you guys in today's video. I did want to talk about, if you have 2 more seconds, Daily Grind Fantasy, because it is another sponsor of the show, and it is a great tool. I talk about Outliers being one of the best sports betting research tools when you're looking at player props or game picks and all of that. But if you are on fantasy, daily grind, or daily fantasy sports like Prize Picks, Thrive, Underdog, Parlay Play, any of those sites, Sleeper too, if you're on any of those sites, this is the tool you should be using. It literally goes through and identifies the value of the picks, gives you a % chance to hit based on what sports books are pricing it at. It is an amazing tool, guys. I have a 7-day free trial link in the pinned comment for this as well. And I really do encourage you guys to check out that as well if you do want to become a better daily fantasy Prize Picks player, that type of thing. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you guys do enjoy the return home here, again, we only have like 4 days before we're back out, and we're going all the way out to Washington. So that's a hike from Boston. But nonetheless, guys, we'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.